Good morning, Opening Pathways viewers. This is Tom LeNoble, and it's great to have you back. I have a great guest today for you, Zac Garthe from Sigil, and he is the CEO and co-founder. And Zac, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here. I really have been enjoying a lot of your recent conversations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you listening to them. I want to jump in. I've got some great questions for you today that I want to learn about you, and our viewers want to know some things too. So we're going to dive right in here. So, what I'd like to start with is for you to tell us about your company and what inspired you to start the company.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And it's nice. I'm honored to be here and great to talk to everybody here. So, my company, Sigil, what we do is we use AI to identify fraudulent sellers on Amazon or Walmart or other marketplaces and then remove those sellers. So, we're trying to make e-commerce honest. That is our mission statement here at Sigil. The journey into this process was pretty unexpected. My background is as an attorney, so I was working in the legal field at a very large firm in Washington, D.C., and kind of cutting my teeth with amazing kind of global companies there. And then I went in-house and became a general counsel at a consumer product brand. And that is where I basically went down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole of all things dealing with commerce and disruption and dishonesty and fraud and supply chains and products. And so I learned kind of a great deal about this space very rapidly. Everything from doing raids on factories in China to being embedded with police and filing lawsuits everywhere, and became kind of an advisor to some of the marketplaces on how to address a lot of these issues. And so that was where I really kind of developed a lot of expertise and passion for this space. When I went to become an attorney, I really wanted to get involved with kind of the criminal justice system and addressing crime and kind of supporting that arena of our, society. And what I do now involves much more crime fighting than I ever imagined that I would be involved in. So the kind of jump into it was that opportunity to, have a really like meaningful impact on a lot larger scale, beyond just being kind of an individual attorney, but
Yes.
to be able to use technology and kind of bring what I know and what my colleagues and coworkers know and their expertise to help
Yeah.
people.
I only have one thing to say. Where were you in my e-commerce days? That's what I need to know. Where did that lead you? And so tell me, was there a moment along this journey when you said, this is it, this is my path?
There was a moment when that hit. So I had left that company that I was at, and I was building my own legal practice in this space, kind of supporting brands and intellectual property work. And it was one of my brands. I was kind of doing some of this process manually, and they said, "Hey, this is great, but we need to find a better way. Like, I want to click a button and see this disappear." And I thought that would be incredible, right? That's how we would solve that on a much greater scale. And started doing some research and saw there had been some changes both in the law and in the technology, and thought, wow, like, okay, we probably couldn't have done this 5 years ago, but we could do this now. And so once I kind of saw that, you ever have those moments, Tom, where something seems so obvious, like, of course the world should work this way. Why on earth doesn't it work this way? And you
All
have to go
the
for it.
time. All the time. I see it with my clients, right? Think, why can't you see that? It's so obvious, right? But then I wouldn't have anything to do if everybody saw what they're supposed to see.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, that was the moment where I realized, oh yeah, this everything, to your point on your days in e-commerce, right, Tom, and working with Walmart, right? As Walmart has become such an important player in the e-commerce space, right? You see these changes happen, you just think, oh, like yeah, the old ways are not the right way anymore. We need to do something new. And
Yes. So tell me, Zach, we all have early role models of some sort that are where we are today, but somebody somewhere influenced it. Who was that for Zach?
oh man, Tom, that's a really good question. What's sort of funny is I think I was really heavily influenced by, honestly, my immediate family. So there's sort of the obvious of the kind of this love and support and compassion from my parents was really important. And their just kind of steadfastness in believing that I had value and important. But honestly, my brothers were probably the two biggest influences on me. So my older brother, his name is Ned, Ned Garth, he never let any expectations or any pressures stop him from doing what he thought was fun, cool, interesting, or the right thing to do. And that's a really powerful kind of shadow to grow up in. And then I think I was always nervous about doing it, but I have a twin brother, Clay Garth, and watching how Clay would then kind of learn from Ned and go do those things himself and also be really successful at it, I kind of realized, yeah, it's okay to go and challenge things. We don't have to follow the confines of ordinary life or expectations. And even when we make miserably embarrassing mistakes, that it's okay, and that moves on, and eventually people forget, and and we can do
Yeah.
more if we free ourselves from it. So,
Yeah. Has there been a time on this journey you've been on that you've gone, is this where I should be? Have you ever doubted what was happening, your vision?
oh boy. So what's funny is I've never doubted that I'm on this right path. I certainly have lots of hard days, right? Days when all you want to do is just lie down on the floor because you just get beaten, you lose something, or something breaks, right? There's definitely hard days, and those days sometimes I ask myself, like, why am I working this hard to do this thing? But the vision and at my core of kind of seeing that I'm trying to build something new and working on just trying to improve the systems that are out there, I don't know what else I could possibly do, Tom. I just, it wouldn't fit. Once this might not be true for everybody, but for me, for catching the kind of startup bug, so to speak, I don't know what else I could do.
I know when you get it, you get it. If you're
Yeah,
wired that way, when it happens, you can't let go of it. I
that's
want
right.
to know, did you have a belief or assumption early on that turned out to be completely wrong?
Ooh, that is a great question. A belief or an assumption that turned out to be completely wrong. I mean, I'm sure there are many of those. I'm just trying to think of what would be a good example to illustrate here. Yeah, okay, so here's one. With what we do, right, our process for identifying fraudulent sellers and removing them is much faster than traditional methods. It has a much greater impact than traditional methods. And because of automation, a lot lower cost, right? So it's a win across the board, right? We're faster, we're cheaper, we're better. And I assumed, because I've been living in this industry, in this world for years and years, right, that like, of course other people will see what I see. They will see that this is a big growing trend and a major issue. We can be on the front end of that and we can solve this problem in a much better way for our customers. And I started going out to customers and talking to them, saying, hey, I've got this new way, better, faster, cheaper. And it turns out that many of those customers were uncomfortable even admitting that they had this problem. And so getting them to say, yes, I have that problem and great, I want that solution was, I mean, I just assumed that would have come easy and that was obvious. But I was way off on that assumption. And that a lot of people, when you're talking to them or first meeting them, right, they are looking to show, I'm doing a good job. I'm very good at my job. I do a lot of value for my company. I don't want to have to admit to my executives that we need your software to solve this problem because I've got it all under control. So that was a big assumption that was way wrong. We call that the hemorrhoid problem internally. It's if you're trying to sell hemorrhoid cream, no one wants to admit that they have hemorrhoids, right? It's embarrassing. So learning how to kind of get around that has been a whole
Yes,
journey
yes,
there.
yes. Do you ever take a personal risk that no one knows about? Personal.
Personal risk. that no one knows about? What an exciting question here, Tom, to go and take something no one knows about and put it out publicly. Um, well, can I maybe drill in a little bit? What do you consider a personal risk, or
I
as
don't know.
example on your side?
Well, what do you think is a personal risk? I know I took a risk one time to do something completely different than I said what I was going to do. Because what I find is some of these risks we take that people see as risky, and we do them so we don't share them, and they turn out to either be our biggest success or we learn a great lesson from them.
Yeah, yeah, there certainly are a lot of those. So I have the advantage of having several very close friendships and relationships, including with my brothers. And so a lot of the things that I think about doing, I talk to them about first. So it's hard for me to think of a risk that
Especially with the twin. Let's face it, you know, I guess it's probably not a fair question because you as a twin, I don't know, I'm not one, but as a twin, I suspect you tell each other everything, or
it's a
even
very
know it before you tell it.
yes, it's a very deep relationship there. So yeah, so there's a lot there. But I will, in the spirit of trying to answer the question or address the ideas of risk, so my background's as an attorney, and that entire profession is about risk assessment, right? And trying to understand threats and mitigate and account for that. Launching this company, Sigil, obviously it was a really big shift and pivot and a giant risk in that I've never been a tech CEO. I don't know much about technology prior to getting involved in it. But, I think that there is an advantage or maybe a misunderstanding about risk, which is that, you can mitigate a lot of risk with information and research and insight and support systems and advisors. And, I'm sure you see this in your practice, Tom, as you help, guide and coach people, right? That process is very much a risk mitigation process. So it opens the door for people to do, what might seem risky, right, to others, to you might not. So like getting involved in this startup, as weird as this is to say, right, statistically, to do a venture funded tech startup is like the riskiest business move to make, right? But from where I was sitting at the time, having been in this industry and watching its evolution and knowing so much about it, having this kind of insider background with the marketplaces, it seemed very safe. It didn't seem like a big risk. Like I said, it seemed like the obvious way things should happen. So I guess I'll just offer that of like, I might not be
Yeah,
the best judge of risk because I'm.
yeah, it's good. What did the early days teach you about trust?
Ooh, that's a really good question too. This is fun, Tom. You've got great questions. So, and I would be curious to hear also. I'll go ahead and answer that, but I'd be curious to hear from your side how you think about trust today too. The early days for me about trust, I would say this is there is no venture, be it business, personal, what have you. There's no venture that I think I will ever do if I don't have complete trust with the people that I'm on that journey with. And my co-founders here at the company, I would go lie down in traffic for them, and I know that they would come and do the same thing for me. And that has had so many beneficial moments every day. Like I said, Tom, there have been days when all you can do is lie on the floor. It's so hard, or there's so many unexpected twists and turns. The highs are high, the lows are very low. But knowing that there's someone else there who can help, who can cover, and I don't have to be, embarrassed in front of, is, immeasurably valuable. And that's true, in my personal life and my family life, with my spouse, it's, very much the same way. I can come to her with anything and have that sense of trust, deep to my core. So I would consider it, essential and
Yeah,
fundamental.
yes, yes.
I was talking
All
to
Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, I was talking to another young founder recently, and he was thinking about, trying to continue the startup he had, but he had a lot of conflict with his co-founder. And the only thing I couldn't get past any of the rest of it. The technology apparently is great. The industry is fascinating and very high upside, but none of that mattered to me. for him, I was just thinking, you are going to be miserable if you don't have such deep fundamental
Yes.
trust with your partner.
Yeah, I call it the energy of support. So I'll share with you on this podcast, I learn a lot about people's ideas of trust, but I'm always pleased to hear that most people trust until they have a reason not to.
Mm.
And one person that was great that said to me, I trust, but now I've learned to verify. I've learned to do a little verification. So let me ask you this, Zach. We live in this time of technology just racing forward. I get the privilege of talking to so many people that are in AI, CEOs and founders, and I'm just blown away by all the things we're doing with it. But we have this issue that, we're trying to keep up with the latest technology, and how do we keep the lights on? So tell us what you think about this being innovative at the same time of sustainability.
That's it's an exciting time that we're in with all of that development. And I think each person needs to probably find that balance for themselves. I had breakfast with my parents this morning, which I'm very fortunate that I could do on a pretty regular basis. And we were playing around with the AI systems there and pulled it up on their phones and kind of showing them some of how it works. And there is an excitement about how that can help, but there's also a legitimate sense of skepticism about what this means and where this takes us, right? And it's been really enlightening to watch different people go through the adoption of this technology at a different rate, because you get that sense of, okay, some people are very comfortable with this, right? To your question on risk, right, Tom? There is a lot of risk associated with new technology and what could happen. Some people are like, that's fine. We'll figure it out. I'm not sweating. And others are like, yeah, well, that is a deal breaker for me. Right? They don't want to have their, personal information exposed or what have you. So I think that, my first point is to be very much like dialing that balance for personal preferences. The second point I would say is, in my experience, right, take this for what it's worth. My experience, there's no substitute for getting outdoors and finding, some time in nature and getting grounded as a counterbalance to this rapid change and development. And so being intentional, I guess, around both. What's your comfort level of technology and being intentional around it, the time you spend there, and then being intentional around, the places that rejuvenate you or serve you, right? So for me, that's nature. For my wife, that's with her close friends and family, right? And just finding that location, I think, is really important. The last thing I would say is it's important to be mindful that this change is happening and faster and faster, right? And I have many friends involved in the education industry, for example, and AI is radically disruptive to the fundamental structure of like research that leads into education, right? I mean, so all of this technology is going to change at the fundamental level of our society and those institutions. My children are going to be educated in a very different way, and
Yes.
so the trends of this technology are going to proliferate out into the rest of society. So I think maybe I just would offer that of it's important to whatever that balance is.
Yes.
To think
I
about it.
look back at the technological advances we've made over the years. I mean, let's face it, I was there when I watched the first fax happen, and we all thought it was magic. And then
And it is.
we had email changed our life. Now all we want to do is get away from it, and
Yeah.
um, the internet and social media, and here comes AI. And I think get on board and decrease some of the fear of it, and let's all be smart. I think is a great way to approach it. So,
Yeah,
um,
and to your point on that, right, there have been lessons we've learned at each of those technology iterations, right? And what works with fax is what works and what doesn't work with email, what works and doesn't work with social media, right? There's a lot of interesting literature now and studies that have been done on where these are supportive technologies, but also like harmful technologies, especially in the
yes,
mental health arena. So I'm glad that we can at least draw on some of that education as we explore with AI. because I think those are important lessons to extrapolate from.
I hope we're doing that. So tell me this, what core leadership principles help you scale your team and make an impact? Core leadership principles.
Um, I would say, so we've got core values here at the company, and core values tend to be a pretty strong reflection, I think, of us, of our leadership team and myself as one of the founders. And so that drives a lot of how I approach leadership. I am very passionate about kind of the trust element that you and I talked about, and that the people who choose to spend their time here with us are happy doing it and are doing it because it serves them and they grow. So our first core value is fulfillment. We want everyone here to show up and feel fulfilled in what they're doing in their job. And sometimes that means that we've had to move people around because they've run into roadblocks that they don't enjoy, or that the work, they might be great at it. Everyone here on my team is incredible. And they might be great at a certain project, but it's so draining. That's not a fulfilling job, right? And so fortunately, as a startup, there's lots of other things that they can go and work on and do. And so we're able to adjust for that. But I would, the short answer to this is I lean in pretty hard and heavy on that, and fulfillment to me is a combination of autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So autonomy, making sure that people feel like they are in control of their jobs. Right now, we have objectives of the company. We're very transparent with everyone, so they know it has to fit in that. But once you know where we're going, I like to give you the space to work and figure out how to get there. The mastery element is people want to get better at what they're doing. They want to develop their skills and their craft. They want to level up. And, Sigil may not be a lifetime job for folks. So they want to be able to have advanced moving forward, right? And purpose, right? It matters that you want to be able to say to your friends and family, like, I'm going to work at Sigil. It's really cool. We're making e-commerce honest. Don't you hate when people get scammed online? Like, we're going to stop it. And, having that purpose to it. So I think about that a lot when I think about leadership.
Yeah,
Filled.
I love what you're doing. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to worry about all that stuff anymore? It would be really wonderful. Tell me something, when the stakes are high, how does Zach make decisions?
Oh boy. So I read a lot of books, Tom, and a lot of the things that I share are just regurgitations of other wiser people here than me. So this is one of them, though. I think it was Ed Catmull, who's one of the authors or the author of Creativity Inc. And it's a management book, learned from lessons over at Pixar. And wonderful book, highly recommend. One of the lessons I took away from that was he called it the stochastic similarity of problems, where small problems and big problems are really just the same, and you should handle them the same. And the process is one of calm rationality, looking at the analysis and looking at the facts that are available. Don't get distracted with blame or anger or frustration. Whether the stakes are high or low, it's just a problem to be solved. And then, so that as a mental approach has brought a lot of peace and then swift action for us, right? We're just able to get past it and move forward. Everyone here in the team knows that they're safe to make mistakes. And the other answer I'd say to that is to be rational in your decision-making process. And so I really admire the works of Dr. Annie Duke, Dr. Annie Duke, who talks a lot about decision-making and has studied it. And she was also a, world champion poker player because of her, work in decision-making theory. And she has a great method and process of, let's look at the potential outcomes and get clarity around them, right? Shine a light on what those actually mean. Don't let that fear cloud your judgment. Do a little bit of work to kind of put some estimates around what are the probabilities here that we're looking at. And okay, so then what do we think is going to be the best outcome? And if I can be right, 70% of the time, then I'm going to be wrong 30%. That means I'm right more than twice as much as I'm wrong, right? And we'll be making good progress there, right? So those are kind of how I think through when there are challenges, high stakes or low stakes.
Tell me, Zach, what are you most proud of personally, not professionally?
What I am most proud of personally is being a dad. I'm very grateful, and my life is very fulfilled by being a dad. My daughter is incredible, and I enjoy, you know, all of the journey that has been watching her grow up. And it's been really hard, but that's part of what makes it really enriching. I've had to learn a lot about parenting. I'm grateful to my wife who has had to teach me a lot about parenting and how to show up as a dad. So on a personal level, that's, yeah, certainly what I'm most.
Good, good. Love that. How do you navigate pushback within and without the company?
Oh man, to be honest with you, Tom, most of the times when people in my life are pushing back, they have a very good reason to push back. So I tend to be, in fairness, like this is not meant to sound as much of a jerk as I am about to sound, but I've had a really successful, journey so far, and there are a lot of times where I am right, right? So um, we can get pretty far on that 70% of the time that I make the right decision. But then, um, so when people come back and speak up, it's usually like, hey, there is a big problem that you've missed, Zach. And so you need to, let's rethink this, right? Let's not just rely on that, track record there. So I really appreciate it when people speak up and give pushback. I like to kind of hear people out. And I will say probably pretty comfortable changing my mind. I was described recently as someone who has strong convictions loosely held. So it's like how you hold on to a bird or something, right? It's like really strong, but you're not. So I like believe really strongly in a certain thing, but when someone gives me different information and new data and stuff, and they have good arguments, I'll be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was wrong. Okay, and so now I'm going to go really hard in this other direction and say, okay, I'm really excited about that. Um, so that's how I try to do it. Nobody's perfect, right? Myself, most of all, I certainly have had my days where I can be frustrating and stubborn, and then I get to come back the next day with many apologies, and then get to learn the lessons of
Yeah.
people
It's
pushing back.
wonderful to allow ourselves to be introspective and be open to what we might not know or where we've maybe veered off a little bit somehow. Tell me this,
Yeah.
what value do you protect most when no one's watching?
What value do I protect most? Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. But can I also? I'd be curious to hear what you would say about that, Tom. So that's a really interesting. No one's ever asked me that question. Um, the value I protect most when no one's watching is the sense of gradual improvement every day. And there was a phrase that I loved, I heard when I was a little kid that I've been saying ever since, which is inch by inch, life's a cinch. So every day, I just, no matter what's going on, I'm trying to make myself, just one little bit better and work harder on one little thing here or there, right? And it doesn't have to be a lot, but just that inch by inch to try to make a little bit of progress is the thing that I focus
Yes.
on by myself.
Yeah, I'll answer your question. Mine is
Please.
I strive every day, no matter how I'm feeling or what's going on in my life, to know that I have an impact on others and whoever I meet, whoever I see. And I try to be somewhat of a light, if you will, that I can be. You never know what's going on in someone else's life. You never know what they're experiencing. So sometimes something as simple as a smile or a nod can shift someone's day. And I'll never even know it half the time, but I love the idea that I might have done that. So that's really important to me.
Tom, can I just share what I love about that answer? Um, that is such a more like wise and well-rounded perspective, right? Like my answer was, okay, well, no one else is around, so this is just about me. So I'm going to talk about myself here and focus on that. But I love that your answer was still, regardless of anyone else is around, you recognize that you're still part of a community, you're still part of society, you still have impact, right? And so, and seeing how that impact has kind of leverage and ripple effects out. That was anyway. That's great. I love that answer, Tom.
Thank you. Zach, how do you balance being a leader with being a learner?
Um, I don't know how you don't do those both at the same time, I guess. I don't think you could be a leader without being a learner. Um, and maybe that's just the nature of where I am in life and being in a startup and first time CEO. You have to learn everything in order to move the company forward.
Thanks.
And so to me, those are synonymous. And I think I would have a hard time getting behind a leader who wasn't always
Breath.
trying to learn or improve.
Yeah, I hope I'm learning on my last breath.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to learn something every day, or maybe two or three things if I can. Tell me this. What are you most hopeful for in the world right now?
Mm, I am most hopeful for an understanding of that broader sense of community connection that you kind of hinted at what you focus on, Tom, and sharing out that light. There is a really interesting juxtaposition to me about AI and humanity. And the more we try to make technology behave like a human being, I feel like the more we understand about humans and about machines. And I am hopeful that that lets everyone take a step back and recognize each other's humanity and um, and really grow and thrive together. That's sort of what I'm hopeful for.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
What ad-
thanks.
what advice do you wish every emerging leader or founder could hear?
Oh, um, maybe it's the learning point. I mean, I think that so I used to be really interested in kind of the American political system and the criminal justice system, right? And part of becoming an attorney was around that. And as I was coming up in the studies of political science and whatnot, I was trained by very rationally minded, kind of policy oriented professionals. And back then it was okay to disagree and have different opinions, share that in public, learn something, change your mind, right? Like flip flop wasn't considered a negative thing back then. Now it almost feels impossible for leaders to admit to mistakes and to try to improve and learn things. And I think that's really toxic.
Yes, yeah. Some of my biggest mistakes have been led to my biggest successes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, it's a great point, Tom. It's a great follow on from your earlier question around risks and personal risks, right? Like making mistakes is how we can really
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
improvements.
Well, we're going to make them anyway, so why not learn from them, right?
Yeah.
Zach, I have one final question for you today.
Cool.
If your younger self were to watch this podcast, what would you tell him?
Probably thank you. Thanks for, you know, the journey that we've had and helping me get here where we are today and, enjoy the ride.
Wonderful. Zac Garthe, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. Please tell the viewers again what you do and where they can find you if they're interested.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, Tom, for having me. So my company, Sigil, uses AI to identify fraudulent sellers on Amazon, Walmart, and other marketplaces and remove them so that we can make e-commerce honest. And if anyone wants to chat or learn more about it, please reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn as just Zac Garthe on LinkedIn, or you can reach out through the website for Sigil, which is sigilprotects.com.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Zac.
Thanks, Tom.
Uh, and to my viewers, this has been Opening Pathways with Tom LeNoble, and I'll see you next time.